What's up, everyone? New Skill here, coming at you live with another Melodious deck profile. This time it's actually going to be regional edition because I recently made top 16 in the past regional I've been to. Funny enough, it was my first regional. It was the Springfield, Massachusetts regional on August 3rd. It's been a couple days since then, but I recently got sick and now I have time to actually make a video about it, so here you go. Melodious performed very well throughout the day. I lost my game 1 and my game 8. Game 1 versus Centurion. I bricked game 2 completely, didn't stand a chance. And game 1, I got too cocky, I got overconfident. I went too far in my combo and played into Nibiru, which is actually something this deck usually actually never does. So it's really embarrassing that it actually happened to me game 1. But otherwise, this deck had a really good showing, and if a novice like me can take it to top 16 on their first attempt at regionals, well, it says enough about the deck, right? But to quickly get into it, first we'll go with the main deck. First, you got the 3 refrains. We're obviously going through monsters first. Refrain, bread and butter, refrain and couplet, which we're also playing at 3s, is always play the 3-offs in Melodious decks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These are your playmakers. These are your building blocks. Not playmakers. They are your building blocks. And every combo starts with these. Otherwise, it's probably not happening at all. Next, it's the 2-offs. We only play one 2-off. It's the 2 Sopranos. This is my second favorite card of the archetype, just because it's a poly on legs, pretty much. Its first effect that lets you add a card from graveyard, one special summon once per turn. But you can fusion once. Fusion once per turn, but that's a soft once per turn. So every time you bring this card back, you can fusion again, and that's really good for the archetype. Next, 1-offs, you got Sonata. I used to run this as a 2-off. I put it back as a 1-off for this one list. I think I like it more as a 2-off because it gives you another fairy body, but it did its job as a 1-off, and I thought it was more important to put the other card as a 2-off, which you'll see later on in this video. Next, you have Shapina. Shapina is it's really good in a lot of ways. Lets you go back into your different Melodious fairies and lets you loop your Herald Orange Lights, which is one of the craziest hand traps in the game, which is exclusive for fairies, which is another reason why Melodious is so good. Then you have, I'll go straight for Cannon here. Cannon's here for your Baguska combo. I didn't go for Baguska very often. However, I went into it like 3 of my games and I won all 3 of those games. So she's very important just because she's a level 4 free special summon. But otherwise, Sonata is better than her in almost every way. You hardly ever use the actual effect of switching things from defense to attack or attack to defense, but it could be useful since a lot of your cards you had special summon in defense, so this might let you eke out a little bit more damage per game. And next, my favorite card of the archetype is Arya. Arya, she's amazing, honestly. She wins some matchups just cause. You summon her out, you can't be targeted, so no more imperms, no more effect failures on any of your Melodious cards, and they can't be destroyed by battle. So it's an anti-tempi card too. Like, this card's very underrated, and to the people that don't really know the deck, they always look at this card and wonder, and the second they get confused by this card, I know I already won the game. Next, we'll go for spell cards. You got the best spell in the deck, and one of the best spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, Ostinato. Ostinato, it's brand of fusion, but even better because it's not once per turn. It doesn't even lock you into Melodious cards. The only thing you really have... Sorry, I got sick. I think I said earlier, I got sick a little bit. The cough from killing me a little bit. It's not once per turn. The only thing you have to worry about is the second effect. The second effect where it summons back the contents from graveyard if at the end of turn it's still out, the fusion card's still out. And the reason why that's a problem, it opens up the Ghost Spell. You know, Ghost Spell is not too popular. It's still played sometimes. And a good player will use it against Ostinato. But Ostinato's card, you're never unhappy to see 2 or even 3 of them in your opening hand. It's just that good. Next is First Movement Solo. I really don't like this card, but it's one of your 9 starters. It's these cards and your refrains. Those 9 cards are your 1-card starters. A First Movement Solo either gets you your refrain or your aria, depending on what you need at that moment. It's really, really good. Just, it's very disappointing compared to Ostinato. Next, 2 of Melodious Concerto. Melodious Concerto. This is a card where I cut out my second sonata for it. I cut out my second sonata for it because I want to see if the second concerto actually made a big enough difference. It kind of did. The thing about Melodious Concerto is sometimes, spoiler alert, Product Prosperity is my next card. Sometimes you can't add Melodious Concerto back from your graveyard to your deck because you can't draw when you Product Prosperity. Or maybe Concerto was the last fusion you did on your turn. Now you double can't do it. So sometimes having the second Concerto in the deck lets your turn 3 actually go off without hitch. But I honestly think it's okay to just play at 1. I think next time I'm going to put Sonata back at 2 and put Melodious Concerto back towards 1. Those 3 changes I'd make to the deck if given a chance. The rest of the cards are all off engine. 16 of them are hand traps. It's a 40 card deck, by the way. The next 20 cards are off engine. 16 are hand traps, but first you have the 3 Product Prosperity. I say off engine, but this honestly might as well be an engine card because you look for Ostinato. 9 times out of 10, you look for Ostinato. Worst comes to worst, you grab one of your other starters. Otherwise, Product Prosperity, you could just do for 3 and look for a hand trap. And then lastly, for non-engine that's not hand traps, it's Called by the Grave. I think this is mandatory for every Yu-Gi-Oh deck right now, or almost every. It stops hand traps, it stops most main decks from actually running. You called by Snake Eyes players, you're probably winning just because now you remove the Flambird, you remove the your princess, the Crimson Princess. It's a really good card that more people should be playing. Now for hand traps. One of the best hand traps in the game that only Melodious can play. Well, and other fairies, but Melodious is the best card that can't play this. Is Herald Orange Light. This card's really, really good. Funny enough, I have 2 of the old Herald Orange Lights as the old wording. So I should probably fix that sometime. This card's really, really good. It's one of the reasons why my Ostinatos kept on going off throughout the tournament. They Ash Blossom, you Herald Origin Light. You negate the Ash Blossom, and your Ostinato goes off, and you're basically guaranteed to win that game. But Herald Orange Light is also very versatile because you could pitch another Herald for it. You could use it offensively for your own stuff, to counter as an actual hand trap towards them. And you can use it defensively so your own plays can go off. Really, really good card. If you can run it, do run it in your deck. Next, we're doing the 2 Ash Blossoms, which it's a little bit weird I'm doing 2, but I'm running 2 for 2 reasons. One is because of the once per turn clause, where whenever I was running 3, I kept on having more than 1 in my opening hand. And while that's unlikely, it's still relatively reasonable since you're running 3. But the second reason, and the bigger reason honestly, is the fact that I'm running 2 Downless Purges. Downless Purge, while a really great card, it just recently came out, runs very counterpoint to Ash Blossom actually. Because Dominance Purge, while it stops them from adding a card to hand, if you use this from hand, which you can only do if they control a card, it stops you from using the effects of fire, water, and dark type monsters. And Ash Blossom is a fire type. So if you Dominance Purge, you're locked out of Ash Blossom. Something to be aware of. It doesn't come up a lot, but you have both in your opening hand. Ash Blossom first, save Dominus Purge for after. But Dominus Purge is quite honestly was quite honestly the MVP of the regional. It caught so many people off guard and it won me so many games just to have that extra layer. Really underrated. And if you have another trap card, if you had another trap card in your graveyard, it also pops it, so it works really well against field spells too. And speaking of other trap cards, such as Infinite Imperm, which we're playing with 3, it's not once per turn. It's the best hand trap in the game because it doesn't run into talents or anything like that. I run these at 3 not only because it's such a good hand trap, it also turns on the secondary effect of Dominus Purge. Very, very, very necessary card. Next is Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is fine. It's another interaction your opponent's turn. It's not mandatory, but it's really good in decks that can allow it. And next is Joel Lockbird, which I was actually extremely disappointed by. Joel Lockbird never ever came up once in all my games. Whenever I used it, they full comboed anyway, or it would cut down the combo by a little bit. I'd always much rather have seen the Ash, or even if I had like a Ghost Ogre or a Nibiru or something, it would be a lot more worth it than the Joel. So I'm actually going to, this is my third change. The first and second one being the Concerto and the Sonata changes. I'd drop these two for probably one of Nibiru or one of Ogre. Simply because my last 2 cards is Crossout Designator, which have more targets for Crossout because it's a little bit weird with this deck, considering you're running Herald and Dominus Purge, which is extremely unpopular right now. So it gives me targets for Crossout Designator, and Crossout actually came in a lot. I wouldn't say it was MVP, sometimes it was dead in my hand, but it won me a lot of games where I really shouldn't have, so it's not to be underestimated. Next, you have extra deck cards. Extra deck hasn't changed too much since my last profile, deck profile. We'll start with the 2 Maleficats. This card, it toils. This one of the most creative and actually really good boss monsters I've seen in a long time. Most people look at this card. Melodious isn't too common, so they actually get flabbergasted with how good this card is. One time I had a guy at a regional tell me how bad Melodious was. He was bragging about how bad it was. He saw this card and didn't really know what to say. He underestimated Archetype and he actually lost because of it. And it did feel really good to make him shut up about my deck. So I'll put that as karma. But this has a floating effect and it's also it lets you banish your cards to put their cards back to your hand. So it's a bounce and an interruption. If this card is removed by your opponent, you get special summon 1 from extra deck or deck. So you're probably going to Baka with this. And speaking of Baka, you run 3 Bakas. You run 3 because, you could technically make do with 2. You use 2 for your for your Baguska combo. And honestly, this is, you go into it with Etol, this is your starter for every combo. You go into this so often that you basically have to run this at 3. And next you have the Hidden Sleeper, Scoopetta, triple DD Crow. I don't really have to say much more. It's a quick effect. So this is why I think the matchup against Snake Eyes is actually rather good. Scoopetta just rips out the Flame Princesses, the Snake Eye cards, and even beats out a lot Engraver cards. Really, really underrated. You end your turn with 2 Scoopettas. You're probably winning that game against certain matchups. Next, you got Bloom Diva Melodious Choir. I'm waiting to remove this. I never summon this card. Ideally, you only summon this card for against Tenpai and maybe Yubel. However, I think that this card is not very good. And once I get my SP, because I'm too poor to have SP, or at least too stubborn because the new tins are coming out with SP, this SP will be replacing this card. Right now, it's basically Prosperity Fodder. And last, you have Bloom Harmonious. Really, really good card, but this card's screaming to get Impermanent Effect Failure. Make sure this is the last thing you do, because it special summons 2 monsters and things it points at. So everyone's gonna see that and they're gonna try to interrupt this. So make sure this is the last thing you do. And if you're against Melodious player, if this comes out, they're desperate. Stop this at no cost. But if this does go through, it's a crazy extender and will win you a lot of games if you're desperate. Next for 1-ofs, you have Gravity Controllers, Underworld Goddess. This Gravity Controller is actually if your Baka gets negated by like Imperm or Effect Failure. Underworld Goddess is for towers to remove them. Protector the Agent's Moon. This is for this one here is for skill drain, out skill drain. And I guess it's also back row removal in general. Because I used this actually won me a game against Runic before, which is very slow game, very funny game, but very slow game. Haggard Lizardo. This clears up your board so you can Ostinato. Baguska for your Baguska combo. Fun thing about Baguska combo, because of how Baka works, if you have Baka and Etorso out, Baguska locks your opponent but doesn't lock you out of effects, because one of the effects of Baka is that your Melodious Fusion cards cannot be negated. And lastly, you have Sky Crisis, which is a desperate card. Remember, if you Dominus Purge, you can't use its effect. You can still bring it out, but you can't use the effect. And this is literally this is emergency. You have no other options. This has won me a few games, but you're probably going to lose anyway, so might as well pull this out and hope for the best. Next, you have your side deck. Side deck's funny. I don't like how side deck looks, but it actually won me a lot of games just because how the meta is right now. First is your Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Don't like that this card's good. However, with Engraver, Fiendsmith decks cheesing out wins by burning you in their main combo. This is your way out of it. This cheeses you a win by letting you heal off the opponent. Doesn't feel good, but it's for a win. And they would do the same to you. Next is Curry Photon. I love Curry Photon. It won me a game against Tenpai. Ideally, you only side it in against Tenpai or a Gimmick Puppet. Gimmick Puppet. Because what this does is you pay 2,000 life points, you discard it, and you take no more damage for the rest of the turn. So Gimmick Puppet can no longer OTK you. FTK you, actually. And Tenpai, it won me the Tenpai game because I had my I-full combo turn 1 because they made me go first. I sent away my entire board to try to stop their combo. I couldn't stop their combo. So instead, I discarded Curry Photon. They couldn't OTK me. And I just beat them on Crack Pack. Next is Dimensional Barrier. Not only for Tenpai, but also for a cross-out target because you're very weak to Dimensional Barrier. Next is Cosmic Cyclones for back row. You have the Lightning Storm also for back row. And then Tam Tam for time. And that's it. I got top 16 at the regional. I got number 15 exactly. However, if you have any thoughts, any comments, anything that you'd recommend change, any questions like what I was against during the regional, let me know in the comments below. And regardless, like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Chill.